The Game Schooler podcast is a weekly audio show that educates new and experienced gamers about the awesomeness of tabletop gaming. In this week's episode, we'll cover the Crew family adventure in our Game of the Week, discuss a good rule book or a good teach in the School of Gaming, and wrap it up by revealing our high five letter D games. Welcome to the Game Schooler podcast. I'm your host, Doug Kotecki, along with my co-host, Dr. Michael McCabe. How's it going, Michael?
Oh, man. It's going great, Doug. How about you?
I am fantastic. Happy to be here. Any follow-up from last week?
Quite a bit of follow-up. I talked about how I really enjoyed playing Roth. That's W-R-O-T-H, designed by Manny Tremblay and Chip Theory Games, and I just want to say it was really hard to put it back in the box and move on because we had other games to review and look at. And then I opened up a game to review and look at, and it is amazing. And I just want to give a little teaser. Kinfire Council came in, so really looking forward to playing that with you. And we also got the Winds of Change expansion, which allows you to play that game solo and or co-op. And it was one of those things that as I was playing it, I thought, Doug's going to love the co-op, and I'm playing through the first game solo, and I thought, Doug's really going to enjoy this game co-op. So not to build it up any more than that, other than, Kevin Wilson, I think, has designed a great game. And we've had recent awards that have been announced, and I think this is a game that's going to clean up a lot of awards down the road, because it's a Euro where the board is falling apart on you and you're able to build some cool things at the same time. But boy, you got to take care of the city, and you've got this cult that's coming after you too. That just feels like there's so much going on, but pretty straightforward game. So looking forward to getting some more info out into the Discord on that and playing that one with you.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Just a joy to get to review games is my follow-up,
Well, it sounds like that's what's awesome as well. As far as some follow-up for me, way back when, episode 188, we talked about Let's Go to Japan, and Josh Wood recently announced, and I believe in that episode we talked about, I can't wait to see if they continue this series or do more. Well, they are, and the next one is going to be Let's Go to France. So I am looking forward to seeing if it's similar gameplay, if they keep the same exact, and it's just different, activities and sightseeing stuff around there. But cool to see that franchise continuing, which we thought might be a good possibility just based on the way it was set up. And then as well, I feel like we should probably mention that the Spiel des Jahres winners were announced.
Yep.
So the big one is going to Bomb Busters, which we covered in episode 208. So kudos to us for being slightly ahead of the curve there. The Kenner Spiel des Jahres was Endeavor Deep Sea, which Michael and I had a chance to play a little while ago, not too long ago. And then Top die Torte. Maybe I'm saying that right. I'm not so good on my German, but was the Kinderspiel des Jahres. So just as a newsworthy item, I thought we should share that if you had not heard already. Any comments on any of those news bits?
I just, this Spiel's cool. I love when the nominations get announced, and I don't live in Germany, so I don't have anything critical to say. I'm always intrigued by the number of American content creators that will slam the Spiel, Yeah. And I think it's really a cool awards show. I'm repping my Andromeda's Edge because I think, that'd be a great Spiel, be a great award winner. So very happy for Endeavor. We had Mark Spector on our show almost a year ago, and Mark kind of let us know, like, this could win some awards. People are going to love it. And it is a fantastic game. So congratulations to Burnt Island and Grand Gamers Guild and myriad of designers and developers who are on that project, because there's a whole team of people in that Endeavor world. So, Doug, I also have a confession to make and some follow-up that I go. Am I okay?
Yeah.
I did not do this intentionally, but some of my work travel just happened to line almost perfectly, not quite perfectly, but almost perfectly with a Dice Tower convention. I happened to be where Dice Tower East was for a conference, except Dice Tower East started on a Wednesday. My flight home was on a Wednesday. So that Tuesday before, I thought, I'm just going to go have a meal at the little sports pub over there, grab a burger, maybe a salad. It was an awesome salad, not to get into the details on it, but it was like General Tso's chicken in a salad. It was really good. It was really good. And I hadn't had vegetables in a few days. It was really good.
Sounds like Gen Con.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Like where a salad stands out, and that's the stellar meal that I remember, because I've gone 4 days without veggies. Anyways, guess what was happening the night before the official start of Dice Tower East?
Prep.
People were playing board games.
Classic.
Yeah, and so I just stumbled around and actually saw some people from where I had played games the night before at a local meetup. And so I won't get into full details on these, but I got a chance to play 3 games. One was Finspan. Got a chance to try that out, and I really enjoyed that. It's one that I've been cynical about and dismissive and poo-pooed in the past. Like, we need another Span game. Well, Finspan's cool. It's very basic. It's one that I could see playing with people from all generations. I'm not going to play Wormspan with dragons with a grandpa and a grandkid, right? But Finspan, you could sit down and go fishing.
Yeah.
And they did some really interesting design choices on that one. I'm excited for you to see that one on the table. I'm hoping we get a chance to see it at Gen Con and see people playing it.
Yeah.
Because your playmat is very narrow. And so if you think about it, like, basically 4 people could play this at a kitchen table or a card table and not have it sprawl off the table. There seems to be some intentionality with that. And then you just have the 3 tracks that you're running down and fishing. So similar to a Wingspan, instead of where, you're kind of running your rows across, now your columns are just going down and you're just fishing on 3 different tracks. And other than that, it's kind of like a Wingspan, a streamlined beginner Wingspan is how I would frame it. That's my experience. I'm sure other Stonemaier fanatics would disagree with that, but that's my
probably
take from
strongly.
One initial play. Here's the other thing, though. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. And then, have you ever gotten a game just on someone's recommendation? Like someone and they're like, you would really like that game. And then have you gone out and picked it up? Or probably not. You're probably not as gullible as I am, right?
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah, well, I was
Could be mistaken, but
when we were at Gamehole Con this past year, our local regional convention, I was talking to Keith Mateka. What's his official title for Thunderworks game? Is it CEO? Is it boss? Is it
owner,
boss,
man,
player, owner, man, villain of Thunderworks games?
Yeah.
And he said, have you ever played Concordia? And I'm like, no, you'd really like it. I said, Keith, I've never played board games with you. How do you know that I'd really like it? And I started giving him the business a little bit, and he said, I've been on your show. I think you'd really like it. But okay. So I ended up picking that up in a trade, and right after Finspan, the guy's like, anyone want to play Concordia? And I got a really good foreshadow for what's coming in the School of Gaming of Concordia. And so that was, and I can confirm, old Euro that I really enjoyed. And so that was the one takeaway. The other takeaway, Dice Tower knows how to run a convention. The level of excitement, the level of engagement, people there were just so excited to get ready to play games for 4 or 5 days. So I added that to the bucket list. I'd like to go to a Dice Tower convention someday. So just putting that out there. That's a little bit of follow-up, and it was kind of cool. Even though I didn't get to be there for the official convention, I'm glad that I got to crash and be there the day before.
Cool. That sounds awesome. I'm anxious to try FinSpan based on your. I'll immediately go out and buy it based on your recommendation.
Don't do that.
And
Don't
be
do
the
that.
first time I do that. No, but I'm looking forward to trying that one, seeing it on the table. As far as what's awesome for gaming with me, it kind of is in a similar line to you, I would say, in the idea of spontaneous gaming. And, it's one of the things that I think we take for granted is the moments where a game can pop up or unexpected when kids say, hey, I want to play this. Well, this time of year is pretty notorious for having, in our neck of the woods, a lot of tornado watches and warnings, which means that you will be heading into the basement randomly throughout the evening or at any time that pops up. So we found ourselves in the basement the other night, and a game of life and impact broke out, and they're always so much better in those situations than they are when you say, hey, let's all sit down and play a game. It's so organic and natural, and people are excited to play, and it ended up coming down to a tie between me and my middle daughter, Piper. Had the exact same amount of money at the end of the game, and she won because she retired early, and I was trying to milk out cash at the end of my years. So it was a fun experience, and everybody got in on it, and so appreciate those moments when they happen, because they're really cool when they do.
Awesome. I Doug.
What?
Tornadoes as an opportunity for spontaneous gaming.
What are you going to do?
I guess that's why.
The game room is in the basement, so we're sitting watching the TV
Doug,
in the basement.
That is awesome for you.
That's awesome for me.
Those tornado warnings, though, they can really stretch out, and it's not one that, no, kids, we're just going to stay up here. It's just a warning. It's 8 miles away. I think we're okay. The tornado was spotted 8 miles to the west of us.
I know how to read. I know how to read the radar. We're fine.
Yeah. Charlie Shortino doesn't know what he's talking about.
No. Get back to Broadfest.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else before we move on to the spotlight?
No, that's a whole lot of awesomeness. We've had a good time playing games and reviewing games lately as well. So that was just kind of the bookend on what's awesome with gaming. I've enjoyed playing games with you. And it's nice when you have steady, consistent people that you can play games with. And it's also nice when you have those opportunities to get outside and play games with other people, to think about how your normal game group's going to react to what you just played. Right?
Yeah.
So that's all I got, man.
All right. Our spotlight this week is The Dwarf King, which came out in 2011 by IELLO. A chaotic clash awaits in the realm of dwarves, goblins, and knights. In The Dwarf King, you're a cunning trick-taker, wielding a deck of quirky cards to outwit rivals across 7 rounds, chasing ever-shifting quests to claim the most points. Each player starts with a hand of cards dealt from a deck of 3 suits, dwarves, goblins, and knights, numbered 2 through ace. Each round, the dealer draws a random special card like the dragon or ninja card, reads its zany effect aloud, and shuffles it into the deck and deals the cards out evenly. The player with the 5 of knights draws a double-sided quest tile and chooses one of its scoring rules, like points for each knight card taken or penalties for each queen taken. And lastly, the player holding the 5 of goblins leads on the first trick. Play a card to each trick, following suit if possible, and the highest card of the led suit wins the trick and leads the next. Quests and special cards, like a puppeteer card that is slightly higher version of the previously played card, twist each round's strategy, making every game feel fresh. After all cards are played, tally points, positive or negative, discard the round's quest and the special card, and start a new round. The player with the most points after 7 rounds wins. The Dwarf King, designed by Bruno Faduti, with art by Christophe Sewall, published by IELLO, is a wild trick-taking card game for 3 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and it plays in about 40 minutes. So, can you master the chaos to rule the realm, or will your tricks flop like a jester struggling to amuse the king? So that is how you play Dwarf King. One of the things I love trick-taking games, but I especially love trick-taking games where the rules and objectives change each round. And what I like about that is in some trick-taking games, you can immediately get a hand and you know how that round is going to play out. It's a disaster. In this game, every hand is a puzzle, and I love trying to work with what I have. So instead of getting dealt a hand of cards and knowing that my round is going to suck, maybe I'm the one that got the quest card, and I get to choose which one. So I can maybe pick a quest that's going to work better for me, or playing with, well, queens are bad this round. How can I get rid of my queens and give them to somebody else so they get negative points, or collect things that are going to score me points? So I love that variety. And it's a kind of a common thing among modern trick-taking games is some of that variety, but this one does it really well. And you're using that special card, and then it's not in the next round. You get a new special card, you get a new objective. So the game never feels stale.
Yeah, this is a game that I think was certainly way ahead of the current trick-taking, what am I trying to say? Era, boom that we are in. I want to just touch on a point that you talked about where trick-taking games can kind of feel samey, right? And I love trick-taking games as well. A classic game is euchre. I might have just an amazing hand, but my partner, my P, decides to go alone, right? And so there's some of those times that if you're playing classic card games, or you're basically sitting out a round. Yeah. Maybe you've got dealt junk, or somebody else just decides to steal the show. And in Dwarf King, you said 2011? Is that right? I think that's right when I looked it up.
Yes.
Yes. It's a game that the first time that I played it, which wasn't that long ago, I thought, man, this game was ahead of its time. Because it uses, just straight up numbers with jacks and queens and aces. It's got some cute art on it. But the subtle abilities with the text at the bottom of the card give some of that, ooh, not just when they're in my hand, but when it gets played by me or somebody else. I love how the abilities modify the game, give a lot of agency to the player, and it's one that I wanted to shine a spotlight on, and I'm glad that we are in a time where there are so many trick-taking games.
Yeah, I think it was probably the first trick-taking game that I played that kind of turned some things on its head, where it was like, oh, that's different, and it doesn't feel like the same type of thing. And anybody that's played euchre knows you get a hand of 9s and 10s, and you know you're not doing anything that round.
Better go Leister.
And that's not a thing in euchre. So
well, it is if your partner calls you off, is what I'm saying. That's where you hope that they're going alone.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, or you have nothing to help your partner, and you're playing against somebody else that has a loner hand. But this was the first one that I felt like, oh, okay, I'm not just stuck with what I have, and maybe there are ways to eke something out. And maybe if I'm getting extra points for king cards, maybe I only have one trump or one card that I feel like I could win a trick with, and maybe that's going to get me 5 points because I won a king card in that thing. So that kind of variety. The currently available one is a second edition or second printing, and they actually made it better just on a simple fact. The original one had kind of long, narrow cards, and the new version has kind of standard playing size cards, which I think makes it easier to shuffle and kind of get into. But a fun little game with a lot of chaos and randomness, and it's definitely not one that if you're going into it that you're going to say, well, I'm going to show off my trick-taking prowess. This is not necessarily that type of game. It's very much a tactical game, and it is about the fun and the silliness and chaos, which is kind of a hallmark of designer Bruno Faidutti. His games tend to have a lot of that. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and other games that we've talked about a lot on this show over the years, such as Sleeping Queens, even recently, what's the game with just numbers from Hachette that we talked about? I should know. We're playing it all the time in our house. No, the other one, is it not Upside Down? Hold on, I'm just going to do a quick turnaround here. Now.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now.
Yep.
So those games that we've talked about in the past, Dwarf King very much fits into a collection like that. If you're playing card games where you want to have just one or two little simple, subtle rules, I love how it's decided who's going to get to choose a quest. It doesn't just rotate from player to player. It's a little bit of randomness. It's based on who got a very specific card. Yeah. And then that starts the round and you're off and running. And so this is a good one. I'm glad we're getting to talk about today.
Yep. So that is our Spotlight game, The Dwarf King. Before we move on, I want to remind everybody to watch, subscribe, and like our YouTube channel. We appreciate that. Spread the word about the podcast and leave a review on your platform of choice. And if you have any questions or comments, reach out to us. Email at gameschooler.com. We would love to hear from you. Now let's move on to the game of the week.
The game of the week. The game of the week is an in-depth look at a family-friendly game we think you should try if you get the chance. This week's game is The Crew, Family Adventures, designed by Thomas Singh and art by Jacob Mueller, published by Cosmos, a 2024 release. Playtime of around 20 to 30 minutes depending on the adventure. 3 to 5 players, ages 8+. Doug, give us an overview.
Stranded on a sun-soaked desert island, your crew of castaways must work together to find a way home. In The Crew, Family Adventure, your young adventurers playing cards in clever trick-taking style challenges across 35 missions to survive and escape, all while weaving a thrilling story of teamwork. Each player starts with a hand of cards from the deck of 21 cards numbered 1 through 7 from 3 different suits. Each of the 35 missions detailed in the logbook sets unique tasks like playing certain cards or playing cards in a specific order. Up to 12 cards are played each round from left to right, filling up 3 rows of 4 cards. Players play cards one after the other without talking to each other until each mission succeeds or fails. On your turn, you can play a card that matches the same color or the same number as the previously played card. Or you can pass to skip your turn, but be careful because your crew's ability to pass is based on the number of hammock tokens indicated at the start of each mission. Each player also receives a special card each round that allows them to break certain rules or help each other out. And lastly, you can use your communication token to reveal one of the cards in your hand to the other players, which can be helpful for locating cards essential to each mission. Complete the mission's tasks to advance the story, from finding food to building rafts, with each challenge growing tougher. Fail and shuffle the cards and replay it. No mission is impossible, but some may demand multiple tries. The game ends when you conquer all 35 missions, or you pause to continue later. Can your crew unite to escape the island, or will you be marooned forever in paradise? So that is how you play The Crew Family Adventure. What do you like about this one, Michael?
Well, similar to the Spotlight game that we just talked about, I love a trick taker. Cooperative trick taking. This is the prodigy. I should have written that word out instead of just bringing it off my head. But this is the child of The Crew.
Yeah.
A game that I am a big fan of, and I feel like this game brings that game down to a family level.
Yeah.
It is approachable. It is playable with kiddos, and it is one that you can have a lot of fun with new gamers and with young gamers as well. I love that sense of trying to figure out the puzzle without being able to use words.
Yeah.
And yeah, every game group's going to have a little bit of table talk. You could say a lot without saying words. But this was a lot more fun than what I thought it was going to be, Doug. I thought this was going to be simpler, a little bit like, it's got family adventure in the title. And so I was impressed. I was really impressed and had a good time making our way through those puzzles. How about you?
I like the way that it introduces the concepts of trick-taking without actually being a trick-taking game. Because although it has elements of that, you're not winning tricks. You're just playing cards out essentially in a row, one after each other. So it teaches things that are like a trick-taking game, but nobody's ever actually winning a trick. So you're learning how to follow suits and things of that nature. And so I think that takes and simplifies the idea as a great ramp-up point for then teaching trick-taking games. I think the complexity ramp is well-paced in this game. I think it builds up nicely. And I think what I really like about this game, which I also like about the crew as well, the big brother, but is the feeling of, and I think this game actually does it a little bit better because it's simpler, is the feeling of knowing how you think the round should play out. You know, everybody kind of does that themselves. You get your hand and you're like, okay, I have this card, I don't have that card. And you're like, okay, well, we need to do this, this, this. And you kind of have like a little strategy, which I have as one of my skills later is strategic thinking. I think everybody personally makes their own strategy based on the information that they have. And sometimes it works out that way and sometimes it doesn't. Even though you can succeed with both of them. So it's like you kind of have your game plan and then it goes off the rails, but you can still succeed. And it's interesting to see, oh, I didn't even think that we would maybe do that way, or that person would have to pass twice and when we still accomplish the goal.
But that's where the timing of the reveal is key, and it's different from puzzle to puzzle, adventure to adventure.
Yeah.
Each round, I'm able to reveal one of my cards. And so knowing when to do that so I could show people at the table, look, I'm going to show this card so you know why I'm going to pass. Because then when it comes back around to me the next time, we're going to end this adventure and I'm going to help us get the victory. But I need to pass now because of this card. The word I was looking for at the top of the segment when I tried to sound smart was progeny. And that is defined as a descendant or the descendants of a person, animal, plant, or offspring. So board game, card game is not in that Googleified definition.
I'll allow it.
But thank you, Doug. Thank you. What I think this game does a great job of is just that progression of kind of showing if you won or did not win based on the sequence of cards, which is a trick and which is very difficult to teach, especially adult game players if they haven't played trick takers. There are some adults who really struggle with trick-taking games and that mechanic of, what do you mean playing into a trick? Well, we're all going to play, and based on the sequence, we're going to see who won, and based on that, that's going to tell us if we score. And I think this game does a great job of scaffolding that. Yeah,
especially the idea. I think one of the things that older folks sometimes learning a trick-taking game is understanding when cards are useful and when they are not, right? And the kind of that flow of, when you're playing a trick-taking game like euchre, there is a flow to it where everybody kind of knows the basic structure and it kind of just rolls out as like, well, of course you don't play that card then, and you should play this card and why you would do that and things like that. And I think sometimes experienced gamers can have trouble with that. And I think what the crew does, the Family Adventures does really well, is each round, is certainly while you're going through maybe the first 10 or 15 missions, is there's 75% to 80% of your hand that's useless. And you're focused on the ones that are valuable or how they can work. And for example, if we need to get it to the blue suit, okay, what are the ways that I can help pivot it to the blue suit? And so it really helps you focus on the things that you can focus on at that particular time. And I think that is one of the parts that people struggle with, is that a card can be useless this round and it can be very powerful the next round. And that can change back and forth in a trick-taking game depending on how it plays out. And this game does a really good job of showing how that works. It kind of trains your brain into thinking that way.
Well, we didn't get through. I didn't get through all 35 missions. All right,
No.
but I got through enough of them that when I got home and logged all the plays, boom, 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 boom. Then, well, what is Thames of Cosmos? What do they have this for sale for on their website? $16 game? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, there is a lot of game in that box, and it's not as if you only get to play the missions one time and then they are forever, deleted. You're not ruined. You can replay the missions again.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a lot going on in the box for what you get. I was surprised by that. Whereas I feel like the crew, the big crew, not going to say that's a one-time playthrough with your game group, but once you go through a mission and you figure out how to solve it, you kind of do need to play that mission with other people because you've figured out what am I trying to say here? The nonverbals in the game The Crew come through so much more than in the family adventure version. I feel like it is a standalone game marketed towards, kids and families.
Yeah. I think the story, there's a kind of a story element weaving through. It's okay. I mean, but I think it's a really good loose structure that finds a way to introduce new obstacles and ways to play. So even though you're progressing through
With
the
the
missions,
constraints that they add in, you're saying?
yeah. The missions feel different. It doesn't feel like a lot of variations on, oh, you need to get this card last. And then the next round is, all right, we did this. Now you need to get this card last. They're changing up the game quite a bit between each round, that they're connected, but you don't feel like, it doesn't feel like you're playing 35 of the exact same game over and over again with just a slightly different objective. Some of them are very specific of, you have to have these two cards in order and then everything else is fine, or this one needs to be the last card that you play, or these three need to be played in this row, but everything else is up in the air. So it feels like every game is kind of different, even though you're doing the same turn structures, which I think is cool. Production, artwork is great. Production is solid for what you said there is a $17 game, which is crazy. The only thing I have I guess this isn't even a thing to be aware of, but I just kind of want to point out, is that there are some smaller tokens and bits in the game.
Yeah, it's a small box game.
That are, and I'm talking like very small.
Okay.
Smaller than you typically see in a game. And they're used for visually tracking things and marking stuff up on the board and stuff. They may be helpful for younger gamers and new players, but they're probably going to get in the way for more experienced gamers and almost be completely unnecessary if you've played a bunch of games. But
and for new listeners, Doug recently lost part of his thumb, so he's developed some superpowers lately and is now more aware of incredibly small bits. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah,
Doug.
now I feel
that's good.
Feel like what it's like to be Andre the Giant playing with normal stuff. When I can't feel half of my
But you're
finger.
saying in the world of Hobbit cards, there are some really tiny pieces, and you just need to know about it, huh?
Well, it's not necessarily even that I'm complaining about the size of the pieces. I'm just saying that they're good for younger players. If you're experienced, you probably don't even need them.
Gotcha.
So it's not an issue. Like one of the tokens is a normal size token that just kind of marks the last card played. So there's a board that there's kind of a visual reference of you could play any in this row or these right below it, which are essentially saying you can play the same color or the same number that was previously played. So not necessarily poo-pooing the idea that the tokens are small, just they may not be necessary depending on what your skill level is or the people that you're playing with. But I can see that they could be valuable for new players. Anything else that you have to be aware of?
No, the only thing that I have to be aware of, you're still not going to win every round.
Yeah.
Although it says family adventures, it is a cooperative trick taker and things don't always work out. So just keep that in mind. You know the people you're playing games with, whether it's your children or other people's children, and you'll have some setbacks. You'll have some rounds where you're not successful. And so that's just one thing. It's not just a perfect win every time.
Well, and following that track is when we had Court on the show from Cosmos. She had mentioned, people kind of complaining that it was too easy. And it's like, if you're playing this as, 4 grown adults with not a kid in sight,
we just got done playing Dead Reckoning. While you're setting up Ark Nova, we're going to play the Crew Family Adventures.
It's going to be easy. It is designed for families. This is not a brain cruncher or a alternate version of the Crew in the exact same world. This is a family game. Be aware of that. So how about skills, Michael?
Yeah, skills. I have concentration, a game that encourages players to focus their attention or efforts on a task. Are they called missions or adventures? I should have looked that up prior to. I kind of trained on Big Crew. I think they're called adventures in this one, right?
Mission preparation.
They still are missions, all right?
Yep.
Where concentration is kind of key is the missions happen quickly. I mean, you can be in and out of a mission in just a few minutes and just a few rounds, and you're into the next one.
Yeah.
And I found myself as an adult who plays a lot of board games thinking about what I had played and what the person sitting to my right had played in the previous mission, and I needed to focus and concentrate on what was in front of me. Be like, oh no, I actually can pass this round. It's okay for me to pass right here, and so just concentrating, I think, is a skill, especially for young gamers. As you have some tough times or celebrate some of those fun times, just focusing, okay, what do I need to do right now?
Yeah, well, and that's a great point too, because I feel like the original Crew, this game is a very gentle experience that if you fail a mission, you kind of feel like you failed it as a group. And I've felt like when I'm playing the Crew, if you fail and you're the one that fails, everybody kind of looks at you like, why did you play that card? What were you thinking? And it can be kind of brutal. That I enjoy this level of you really feel like you lost as a team. And sometimes when I play the Crew, it feels like, no, you lost us because you played the wrong card in the wrong order, and that was foolish of you, type of thing. But for me, I have 3 big skills that go together. One of them that I have never put on a list before because it's a very unique and hard to find a game that fits it, but I think it does.
Because you made up a new game schooler skill? Or
yes.
No, this is on our list.
It's on our list.
All right, go ahead. I'm excited.
And that is collaboration, which is a game that challenges players to work together to produce or create something new. And normally, there's a lot of cooperative games, and this does have cooperations, another one of my skill. But the building of that little tableau, even though it's only 12 cards, you feel like you are building something. It's not
that
just
progression's cool.
I beat back the virus or I stopped the fire. It's not that type of thing. You're actually constructing a little tableau on the table and working together to make it. And so it is one of the few games that I feel is collaborative, even though you can't communicate, which is what makes it really unique in that regard. To have a collaborative feel with communication being shut off is really cool.
That's great. Do you have another one? Because you said you had 3.
Yeah, the last one is group discussion.
Oh,
because
okay.
I feel like you don't communicate during the game, but then everybody, after every round, without fail, everybody kind of shares what their thought process was throughout the game. Like, well, I knew I had this, and so I figured, well, I'm going to have to wait for it, and you put that out, and so there's a discussion after every round of how we succeeded or failed, and then you build that and put that into the next round going forward, whether you're replaying it or moving on to another mission. And I really like that about this game.
I do too.
You can be cooperative, you can not communicate, but collaborate on something, and then get done and communicate and discuss strategy, which goes back to what I said earlier, is like you get your hand of cards and you're like, how's my hand going to work this round? How do I need to play it? And then you get to share that with everybody at the end of the round of why it did or didn't work or change. So it's a really cool game on that front, on a skill building level, I think.
that group discussion, that burst of group discussion that happens right after the round, that is one of my favorite things about the Crew. And I think that is a hallmark of the Crew franchise. And I was really glad to see that it was still in this Family Adventures.
Yeah.
That even though we were playing with 4 adults, but as soon as we got done, it was, oh, I thought about doing this, but then I didn't do that. And that's why I took that round off, because I knew that if you played that card or had anyone play that card, then I'd be... And there's that banter, that muttering that happens and builds from mission to mission. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm really surprised to hear collaboration for you, Doug. What are we on 227?
Yeah, finally made it.
Yeah, it did.
228.
We can wind it down now. 228.
Yeah.
The other one that I have, I brought a lot of skills in, but what did I lead with here?
Concentration, I believe.
I did lead with concentration, and then observation, a game that rewards careful watching of details and behaviors in order to understand or arrive at a judgment. And I know I keep coming back to one little feature, but knowing when to show a card in your hand, because I can think, I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to hold on to that. And then all of a sudden it's, well, we still need to get, another 3 cards down. Okay, it's time for me to show the person sitting on my left this card, so they know that I have this card in my hand and I'm holding on to it. I think that subtle sense of being tactical and observant really comes through in the game as well. But that's more from an adult lens playing a kid's game. Yeah. I don't know if kiddos, if observation is going to shine through as much. But
well, I think it shows up when you then mix it with the group discussion.
Yes,
is then being able to point out to younger players what they should be looking out for, or what they may need to notice in the next mission, or if we're replaying that, of, okay, when would it be important to know that, or to see what cards are out, and that type of stuff. So it's a really good teaching game as far as being able to kind of rehash and learn from the results. Any other skills for you, Michael?
No, those were the 2 that I wanted to bring in and highlight.
All right. And what are your final thoughts on this one?
My final thoughts is I was surprised. I was expecting closer to Candyland, and I ended up walking away with closer to the Crew than what I thought. This is a game that I could play with my family. This is a game that I could play with my mother-in-law. This is a game that I could play with my ma and my 9-year-old and have a great time. And as much as I love the Crew, mission to Planet 9 or whatever it is, deep sea event, I've got them all. And now I know I need to add the Family Adventures so that I have one that I can actually play with my family.
Yeah. I enjoy this one more than the original. I found the original one hard to get to the table. And I think this one is a less demanding game from its players. And I think it scales up nicely. And filling in that learning gap between Uno and trick-taking games. Because the way that you're playing cards down is very Uno-like. It's like you can play the same number and switch the color, or you have to play the same color. And so scaffolding up from Uno and then learning kind of the flow of a trick-taking game, I think is where this game really shines in filling that gap. So, like I said, I like it more than the original. That is the Crew Family Adventure.
Yeah, and just to clean it up, and the Quest for Planet 9 and Mission Deep Sea. So I completely butchered the other 2. So now we got it right. Don't want to be disrespectful to Thomas Singh and the wonderful franchise that he's built with Cosmos.
All right, so that's our game of the week, the Crew Family Adventure.
The School of Gaming. In the School of Gaming, we discuss concepts, keywords, etiquette, and helpful ideas in the world of gaming. This week, we discuss the concept of a good rulebook or a good teach! Exclamation point.
Oof, this is a tough one.
You want me to lead us in, or are you going to lead us in?
No,
here,
go
Doug?
ahead. Go ahead.
I'll just say,
I'm ready to riff.
Hey, if I had to have one, and if I'm playing with more than one, a good teach all day. So for me, if I'm playing with other people, it's got to be a good teach. But obviously, I play a lot of games solos, and then I desperately rely on the rulebook. I cannot play the game without the rulebook. So I see both sides of the coin.
I always prefer a good rule book because I think I can compartmental. I mean, there's always something about the way people learn, right? And a good teach can be really helpful. And I've learned a lot of games being taught games and things like that. But I always feel more comfortable having read the rule book myself, even if it's a game that I'm know I'm not going to be teaching. If I can go in with a better understanding of the rules myself, it usually leads to a better experience. And not that the people teaching it are bad or inadequate or they're not doing as good as I could do or anything like that. It's just like
they're not.
I don't know about that either. But there is a level of like just mentally having the time to be like, okay, process, this is the flow, that's the thing. And not necessarily even maybe it comes too from just the idea of like having read so many rule books and teaching so many games and knowing how easy it is for stuff to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Because I've left them out. And then you play through half the game and you're like, I don't think we were supposed to be doing this. Or, oh, crud, I forgot about this simple rule. And it's like, that changes everything. And you just kind of, I know how simple it is for those type of things to get skipped over and forgotten about.
And you as a gamer also love to know exactly where something is in a rule book so you can just get to it and answer it, right? Like that's something that you love. It might be a little strongly stated, but you certainly like to know where things are in the rule book so it doesn't slow things down at the table.
Yeah,
right?
There's nothing worse for me than the idea of you do a good teach and everybody knows how the function of the game works. And everybody's on the same page. And it's like, we are up and running. And then it becomes a thing of like, oh, I got this card. What does it do? And it's like, and they'll show it to you. And you're like, I don't know. We got to look. We got to look it up.
Magic Circle time is on pause.
That nothing brings me out of it, which is, I guess, a sign of a bad rule book. And it's interesting, the idea of, is this... How do I want to learn games, or how do you experience games better? Is it through the rule book or a good teach, or how would you rather, would you rather be teaching? Would you rather be reading the rules and be the one doing that, or receiving it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's also a reflection on you as a host of a game night. For a long time, you hosted a game night, and you need to know those rules inside and out. You're going to be leading it. If somebody else is leading it, you got to make sure that you're ready for backup. Not to do a hard pivot, but I want to go down a slightly different pathway, and that's from our perspective of getting demos. We've been to enough conventions and trade shows and gotten demos where if that initial teach is a disaster, I'm not even getting to the rule book because I'm not coming back to that game unless I get a better teach down the road. Yeah. And so I think that the initial teach can do a lot to make or break a game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just how I learn and my level of engagement. But if somebody has a good hook and could tell me what's exactly happening in the game, what I need to do on my turn, and what the win conditions are, and if I can get those all to me in under a minute, boom.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That was a really good overview.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest parts of whether it's a rule book or even teaching a game or receiving a teach, I think with the biggest, I don't want to say issue, but because it's not an issue, but the biggest contributing factor of success is really the order of delivery.
Great success.
And the way that a rule book is laid out, if it's not in the right order, it's a huge problem. If the person giving you the overview or the teach is jumping around, and then it becomes scattershot. So like getting that flow of a teach or a rule book is the biggest contributing factor to whether either of those are going to be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I've read rule books where it's like, oh, this is just streamlined, easy, like boop, 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 and you understand it perfectly. I've seen people give overviews and demos, and you're like, yeah, that goes there, that goes there. I feel like in 3 minutes, you gave me the whole game. I feel like I could get up and run it. And then I've also been in demos for a 15-minute card game that should be dead simple. And I'm like, what are you doing in this? Like, why? This is not making sense the way that you're telling me about suits, and then you're telling me how we draw cards, and then you tell me how we win, but you haven't even shown me where I play the cards yet.
Yeah.
And so it's like that type of thing is like, give me the full biopsy or the diagram of the card, then move in, how do we play the cards, and then how do we win? And, or, those type of things, that flow is so important of how that, and I think it's easy when you're teaching games to really get distracted while you're on this part, to then be like, oh, I got to make sure I don't forget this part over here. And so you jump
right time
there,
to come back.
But jumping to that first, you've just disrupted and kind of negated everything that you said there. And the people are now thinking about what you were saying, and like, I'm not sure what he said there, and now I forgot this because I'm too busy worrying about what he didn't finish over there, So that flow, rule book or teach, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say about rulebook, I know 5 years ago or so, when I would get a game and it's crowdfunded, back on Kickstarter, I expected to have to go to Board Game Geek and get an errata down the road, get an update. I mean, I backed it off Kickstarter. I don't expect the rules to be perfect for something that I backed. I backed it, and I feel like in 2025, the hobby and gamer community has completely shifted off of that. If somebody is publishing a game, the rule book, the expectation is perfection and clarity. And I don't think that's fair. I really don't. I think rule books are living documents that people are going to update. And I might not have the most updated version, but guess what? There's something called the internet. There's something called Board Game Geek. Publishers have web pages where I can go out and I might just have a black and white printer, Doug. And if I really want it in color and get laminated, I could send it to the old FedEx Kinkos and pay $4 to add it to my box if I wanted it that way. But that, for me, as somebody, I'm not talking game schooler lens, playing family games with teachers. I'm really talking hobbyist gamer. I don't have a ton of patience for other hobbyist gamers who just want to trash the rule books. Like I see it on Discords, and I see what publishers have to go through. Yeah, and I feel bad for them. And we have enough friends that are designers and people who've come on our show who then just get crushed because something isn't clear. Well, so you're going to take 1.5 points off your rating? You got the answer right from the designer. They told you what the rule is. Yeah. So that's something that I just wish there was a little bit more latitude.
Yeah. I think certainly there's no place for any of the vitriol or things like that. And I do feel sympathy for a designer, especially if it's a typo or a rule that got left out. However, I do fall into the camp that perfect world, you expect it to be right,
perfection,
and ready to go. Yeah. Because for example, it's like I don't buy a power tool and then just go online to see if there's an updated version of the instructions to see I'm not missing anything, right? Like, and it's
We're not talking power tools, though, man. We're talking
but my point is that the idea of, my first instinct should always be go to the internet to check to see if there's errata in this. Yeah, this thing is not a natural inclination in any instruction or rule book for any product, unless there was a card in the box that said, in order to make sure that we always have the best possible rule book, here's a QR code. The rule book is online. Go look at it. You don't, the natural inclination is not, I better go online to make sure I have the most accurate and corrected rule book is kind of my point. So I don't agree with the idea of slamming a publisher because they accidentally left something out or something was glossed over and doing that online. And certainly if there's a rules question, go to Board Game Geek. But a lot of people get in games, certainly. I know you're talking about hobby people, but Joe Blow's getting a game from Target are not going to go, oh, there's this giant database called Board Game Geek where I can ask this question to see if anybody else has run into this rule thing either. So the general inclination should be that it should be correct in the box. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And I sympathize with publishers because if I do have a mistake in the rule book, how do I even get my word out there to people that aren't active on Board Game Geek? Certainly millions of copies of Ticket to Ride have been sold. Millions of copies are not registered as owned on Board Game Geek.
Right.
So there are millions of people that if there isn't a errata for Ticket to Ride, how would you disseminate that?
Yeah, no, and I get that. I guess the rabbit hole that I went down, and maybe it was a different segment that we're also putting into this segment, is I don't like the trend of the rules litigator who, as soon as their crowd-funded hotness arrives, they dive into that rule book just so they can point out a mistake or something that could have been clearer and then broadcast that to the whole world. That doesn't help me as somebody who's just trying to figure out how the game works. Yeah,
it's the same person that's complaining that the Crew Family Adventures is too simple and childlike for them.
Possibly.
Same segment of the hobby. So let us know in the Discord whether you like a good rule book or a good teach or what your thoughts are on there. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's move on to the high five. Every week, Michael and I highlight a list of games we want to play, enjoy, or spread the word about, and everyone loves lists. And this week, we're taking a look at our favorite games that start with the letter D, which I had 12 on my short list. How about you?
Yeah, I stopped at 6 because I could have kept going. This could have been a list of 20. If I needed to do a top 25, I could have done that as well. So
hard list to make for me.
Yeah, same.
I feel like we say that every letter list, but this one just seemed like it was like banger after banger.
The top 3. I mean, Doug, which one's your favorite kit? You've got 3 of them, So don't answer that, Doug. That's kind of how I felt about the list. It's like, oh my goodness. I just got to see what week we talked about that one. All right, now I'm ready to go. Number 5 for me was a game of the week back in episode 124, and that is Dog Park. Dog Park is designed by Jack and Lottie Hazel. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Birdwood Games.
Yep. Awesome
Game. Go check it out. It's out there in Board Game Arena if you want to try it. But what I will tell you, the art that I should have pulled the name of the studio that did that art, and the gameplay is just a ton of fun. You're a dog walker. You're walking around to get resources for your dogs. And it's really an order fulfillment and set collection game at its core. And it's a ton of fun with vibrant art that I think brings kiddos to the table and is also pretty darn approachable. That's my number 5 is Dog Park.
Yeah, geez, I blanked on that one. That would probably be on my list, and I would swap it in, but because I'd rather talk about more games.
No, I hear you there, but for me, it sits like truly, it is 2 feet away from where I'm sitting, and I stare at it every day. So that one made my list.
Well, I'm kind of embarrassed at that list. My number 5 is Dead of Winter from 2014 in Plaid Hat Games. Designers Jonathan Gilmore Long and Isaac Vega. Just a great hidden role game that's a cooperative game, one I desperately want to get back to the table. And I know I've talked about it before, but there is something special about playing a cooperative game, which everyone has a hidden objective that even if the group wins, if you don't complete your hidden objective, you lose. So you're doing shifty and shady stuff throughout the entire game, but that could also mean you're a traitor as well. So in some games where you can hide that a little bit better, this one it's like I think he's helping, and then you flip over. Some of the things are like you may have to contribute food for the colony, and everybody's putting it in their face down, and then you flip it over, and it's like, there's other junk in there that nobody needs. Like, who put this in there? Who said they were giving food and donated this to the cause? But everybody's doing weird stuff throughout the entire game. It's like, what are you trying to collect over there? Why do you have so many cards? None of those are food? You couldn't give us food? Like, that type of thing is a really good social game with a chunky exterior of gameplay in it as well. So that's my number 5, Dead of Winter.
It's awesome. Haven't played that one yet. Number 4 for me, I was shocked in 2 different ways for number 4. It's a Donald X Vaccarino game from 2008, and that's Dominion. And I was shocked in the first way, it's never been a game of the week. And so that tells me, well, Doug must hate it then, because I love me some Dominion. But the other place where I'm shocked, I don't know who I let borrow it. All right. I have a few people in my life that I will loan out a board game to and let them borrow. One is designer and neighbor John Spike. John's really good about returning games. The other thing about John, he always leaves a game as collateral. So that's how I know he has a game out, because even if I tell him, no, just take it, John. You could take, he loves to borrow Las Vegas. His family likes Las Vegas, and it's out of print, and he'll leave a game. I don't know who has my Dominion, so I put it in previously owned. But Dominion is a game that I have a little bit of nostalgia about, because as I was a new father, I was playing this with a lot of family members and friends when we'd have them over to the house, and it was just that kind of era of gaming. First deck builder that I can recall playing.
First deck builder.
It really is, right? And Ryan Lockett is one of the artists on it. I didn't know that until I was doing research for this. Rio Grande, Doug's favorite publisher, published it initially. There is a ton of expansions. I've explored some of them in the app version. The app is awesome. And so that's my number 4 is Dominion, one that I haven't played in a long time. I should look up my last logged play. Last log play 2019, October 12. So one that I love to get back. In fact, I think I just discovered who has my copy of Dominion while looking up log plays. But that's enough of me talking about Dominion. Number 4. Doug, do you care for Dominion?
Yeah, I used to own it. I think it's and the artists are probably each card had a different artist, so there's a
ton of artists. Then,
yeah, there's not a cohesive. This was the 1 or 2 artists that made the game. It's one that I enjoyed, but for some reason,
other games come and go, right?
Yeah, well, and it's very simplistic, right?
Yeah.
It's the original one. So, and then they just started having 8,000 expansions.
There's so many expansions.
And when it came to deck building, right neck and neck for me were like Dominion and Marvel Legendary. And so it was like, well, I would rather play this game with an IP and cooperative that I have.
That makes sense.
Than just playing base Dominion. So it slowly crept out of the collection.
And I could see myself at a convention throwing down $2 to $4 to play somebody's copy with a bunch of expansions in it that they love. So one I know I'll come back to.
Cool. All right, my number 4 we talked about in episode 185. I was surprised it kind of made it up this far on my list, and that's Draft and Write Records from 2024.
So good.
Inside Up Games, and Bruno Maciel is the designer of that one, and it is a game like a lot of good games. And we were just talking about Dominion and Clank being a deck builder that added a board, and Draft and Write Records is a roll and write game, or marking off on your sheet, but combining that with drafting cards. And there's something about that connection that I really enjoyed of drafting one, filling it out on my chart, and moving my band and adding new musicians to it and stuff like that. That worked really well for me, and I really enjoyed it. So that is my number 4, Draft and Write Records.
Great choice. I love the map in that game. I think that's, especially with repeated plays, you can just get into the flow and know how bonuses are going to chain together. It's one that every 3 or 4 months I'll just look up on Board Game Geek to see, are there expansions coming out? Are they going to have another map? Just an awesome game. Great choice, Doug.
Yep.
All right, number 3 for me is Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning is designed by John D. Clare, and art is by Ian O'Toole. Just got notification that this big, massive chest that's going to fit inside an entire Calyx cube is getting shipped, and it's actually getting shipped separate from the rest of the expansion. Don't know why AEG is doing that, but hey, that's what they're doing. And here's the cool part about it. Our friend designed it. Friend of the show, Dan Cunningham, designed this battle chest or whatnot. So I'm so thrilled and excited to have that live right behind me on the shelf. I love the swashbuckling adventure of the card crafting system where my crew can get upgraded over time. It's one that I spent the better part of a month and a half, maybe even 2 months playing solo and just exploring one of the expansions. It takes some time though. I mean, playing this game with other humans, it's a 2-hour affair, and if you got a table where it can live, great. If not, might not be for you. I did check recently though. One of my other buddies had me look to see is if they still had a dent and ding, and AEG, Alderock Entertainment, I believe it's just alderock.com, still had games for like $60 on their website for Dead Reckoning. So who knows how much longer those will be there, but they had a bunch of them at the time. So one of my games that I just absolutely love, I can't believe it's sitting at 3. That lets you know what's ahead of it in 1 and 2. I also can't believe this is 2022 already when it was released, but that's me and mine. One that I think will stay in my collection. If I had to get down to 10 games, I'd have a hard time letting go of Dead Reckoning. Yeah,
I want to play the cooperative version of that. I think
we got it. I want to do cooperative 2v2. And I think the 2 people to get on the other side of the table. I want to be on your team, and let's go take down their other ships. All
right, sounds good. Sign me up.
Yeah.
All right, my number 3 we talked about way back in episode 11, and that is Dream Home, which I had to put on the list just because of, similar to the game of life, the games that just bring the other people in my family joy. This is one of them. Being a dad of 3 daughters, designing your dream home and putting rooms in and all the little stories that come with it. This came out in 2016 by Rebel, and the designer is Clemens Kalicki, and it's just fun.
Great game.
A fun selection game with the spatial management and spatial puzzle of how you're connecting rooms and stuff. And it's really brought a lot of joy to my house. So that's why it is my number 3, Dream Home.
That's awesome, Doug. Great game. My family loves that game. Really, really easy to get back to the table too, isn't it?
Yeah. You don't have to do
the opposite of Dead Reckoning. Not a lot of bits. You can get it done in 40 minutes.
Full rules refresh.
Yeah. Number 2 for me is also a hobby level game, and the reason why I'm wearing my Andromeda's Edge shirt today, and that's Dwellings of Eldervale, designed by Luke Laurie, and published by Breaking Games. Dwellings of Eldervale is just a phenomenal game in which you're placing workers out and taking actions, and you're trying to build these little dwellings to score points. You're moving up different tracks. It's similar to Blood Rage that we talked about recently. There's a few different mechanisms that kind of are put together into a wonderful little stew that just works for me and my brain and how I want to play games. I've played more of it solo, but I have also played it with other humans. Got all the deluxe bits with the monsters that make noises, keep the extra batteries, so I'm ready in case anyone wants to play. But one that it is a weekend game. This is not a weeknight game because, again, the Board Game Geek playtime says 1 hour. It says 60 minutes up to 150 minutes. For me, it is a 150-minute game. It's a 2.5-hour game.
Yeah.
That has some very defined phases and processes and flows. But once you get down to placing some wizards out, do monsters rush in and attack? No. Then I get to, take these additional actions. I've got these cards in my hand that I'm trying to get out and play, but I can't seem to ever have enough of what I want to do. The perfect amount of tactical and strategic thinking for me. That's my number 2 is Dwellings of Eldervale. And then it's been, people have said replaced, but re-implemented by Andromeda's Edge, which is the space version.
Awesome. All right. My number 2 is a game I've talked about a lot, which is Distilled from Paverson Games, and designer Dave Beck. Came out in 2023. A great game about distilling spirits. And there's something, I think the things I really enjoy about this game are building out my own little still and my own little operation with my own recipes. And then that little bit of a crapshoot when you try to make your spirit and you put all these ingredients in and you're taking off the top card and the bottom card after you shuffle. And hopefully you don't take out the ingredients that you needed to make the special drink that you were trying to. And, that little bit of excitement in a otherwise a very Euro-y, crunchy head down type of game is really fun to me. And I think that element alone brings a fun factor over the rest of the game of like, oh, I can do this to help mitigate that, or this is going to help me get more of those ingredients that I need. And that type of thing is all working up to, the 5 or 6 rounds that you play. I think maybe it's that, and each one you're like, okay, I hope I can make the spirit that I need to make. So that's my number 2 is Distilled.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's on Board Game Geek. But I love
Board Game Arena.
Board Game Arena. Thank you. I love that shuffle the cards and pull the top and the bottom off. You know, I love that little mechanic. It feels like I'm cooking something. So,
that certainly would be lost on the digital thing. It's just like click, click. All right.
Yeah. And my number 1 I have as a 10 out of 10, and that's Dice Throne.
Same.
And Dice Throne, we've talked about it enough. We interviewed Manny Tremblay. But can you really ever talk about Dice Throne enough, Doug? The one thing that I'll tell our listeners, Dice Throne has recently launched something called Organized Play. So a tournament format of Dice Throne. And I signed up for some Organized Play in Springfield, Illinois, which, what is that, about 300 miles from where I'm sitting?
Pretty close.
And that's when my family said, no. You want to play Dice Throne, you can play against us or go play with your friend Doug. You're not going to start to jump into the tournament scene of Dice Throne. And I bought a Shadow Thief t-shirt. I was all ready to go. That's where I wanted to take the game. And my family stepped in and said, you have enough things going in your life. You're not jumping into the Organized Play scene of Dice Throne.
Yeah.
But that's where it can go. I mean, that's how much there is that's there and how fun it is, and just getting the characters out, chucking some dice, playing some cards, trying to battle head to head, or, hey, you want to do an adventure or maybe an X-Men mission, you can do that too. So there's so much in Dice Throne.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about it as well, is the different ways that you can play it. You can play a quick little battle, 2-player battle. You can go in and do cooperative and the different IPs with the Marvel stuff, and even the amount of different characters, that are homegrown. Just that variety is really cool. So if you want to learn more about that, episode 101, we went into a deep dive on all things Dice Throne, although some of the Marvel stuff may not have been out by then, but
no, and I think our interview with Manny Tremblay that we did recently, if you're listening now, you probably listened to it. It was just a few weeks ago. Is another great place where you can go, and he gets into the design, the design of it and everything that
how it was
that
created.
They did. Yeah.
All right, so that is our high 5 letter D games. I got my here's the ones that didn't make the list. This tells you how crazy of a list this was. Dead Man's Draw, Decrypto, Diamonds, Downforce, Deep Blue, Dice Forge, and Descent. All games that I would gladly play with anyone at any time, and they didn't make my list.
Dwarf Romantic for me, is another one that played a ton of, played solo, played with friends, and enjoyed it, won the spiel.
Yeah, and Dog Park should be on my list as well. So let us know what letter D games you like. Subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on X at GameSchoolerU. Subscribe and like the videos on YouTube. We appreciate that. Join our Discord, gameschooler.com/Discord. Next week, we are going to be talking about Star Explorer, player interaction, and route building games. Thank you so much for spending the last hour or so with us. We truly appreciate it.
Now get out there and keep gaming.